Ethiopian state-affiliated media, Fana Broadcasting Corporation, is reporting that the United States will send agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation to investigate the deadly attack in Addis Ababa on Saturday. U.S. Under Secretary of Commerce Gilbert Kaplan reportedly made the remark Monday after meeting with Ethiopia's foreign minister in Addis Ababa. 2 people were killed and over 150 wounded in the grenade attack that happened just after new reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had just finished a speech before tens of thousands of supporters. 30 people have been arrested in connection with the attack, which the 41-year-old Abiy described as well orchestrated. For more insight on the latest developments in the Horn of Africa, Joseph Siegel, Director of Research Africa Center for Strategic Studies at National Defense University in Washington, D.C. joins me via Skype. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you, Vincent.
Yes, and now we've been observing things happening rather fast in Ethiopia. First, what do you make of this explosion over the weekend?
Well, it's obviously very concerning. There's very sketchy details about what's happening, but it's a reminder that there are elements within Ethiopia or outside of Ethiopia that are opposed to the reforms that Abiy Ahmed is making.
Do you get the sense that it's moving really fast, given that he's not necessarily an individual? There is a juggernaut, a system in Ethiopia that has been running things.
Well, it's going very fast given the historical standards, but I think it reflects a moment, a transition inflection point in Ethiopia, where there has been a buildup and a desire for change that's been coming for a long time. And I think Prime Minister Abiy is responding to that. You know, he has a great deal of legitimacy, having been selected as a minority party within the EPRDF and having this groundswell of popular support. That's not like anything we've seen in Ethiopia since really the early days with Meles Zenawi in the 1990s following the liberation from the Derg. And so I think he is just tapping this groundswell of support for reform, for a degree for greater popular participation, for a greater involvement in the economy and civil society, loosening some of the press restrictions and civil society restrictions that have been on the society. And so I think that's why we saw so many people out on the streets on Saturday to try to voice their support for what he's doing.
Yes, and the overtures across the border. Do you see this actually translating possibly to a more peaceful, cozy relationship between the two nations, one large, one small?
Yeah, I think it's creating a real opportunity to change that dynamic with Eritrea. The conflict that happened between 1998 and 2000 with Eritrea was really a lot about pride and posturing between the two leaders at the time, Isaias Afwerki in Eritrea and Meles Zenawi in Ethiopia. And they had both staked a lot of capital and their own reputations and even the national identity on making sure that they defend every inch of their respective territories. And this quickly escalated into the border conflict around the Badme and other regions. It tragically resulted in the deaths of 80 to 100,000 people. And it's really for a territory that has little economic value. It's not very densely populated. It was all about pride. And so this long-standing difference has been hard to resolve without one side being seen as backing down or another. In comes Prime Minister Abiy, and he doesn't have any of that baggage. He sees that this is a conflict that can be resolved. There's been a decision made by this transboundary commission between Eritrea and Ethiopia, sanctioned by the United Nations. And I think he's saying, let's just move on with this. There's so many more reasons and incentives for us to cooperate economically, security-wise, politically. And I think he's trying to forge through with this opportunity now.
Well, we'll keep watching and see where how far he gets with all this. Wish him well. Thank you very much, Dr. Siegel.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You're welcome. Joseph Siegel is the Director of Research at the Africa Center for Strategic Studies at National Defense University here in Washington.